Hi guys, welcome to another review at OnWheelsTV. This is about the GT3 Challengers Pack for rFactor 2, the latest content released officially by Studio 397 as a DLC for the sim. And you will be watching footage of all the four cars that are already available in this content. All this footage was prepared in NOLA, one of the tracks that Studio 397 released in the sim. And this is the first of two videos we will be releasing where we use this content, this GT3 Challengers Pack, although the only specific review video of the content is this one. The other one we will be using the cars and we will be commenting about the cars, but all that in a different philosophy, in a different video where we address other stuff also in the sim. So basically this is the review of this content. The cars are balanced in terms of performance with the other GT3 content of also 5 cars that Studio 397 previously released for the sim. We were able to test these cars in the footage. You only see these 4, but we already tested all the cars at the same time, and we could in fact realize that they are absolutely balanced in terms of performance. So these 4 cars, soon to be 10, can compete with the other 5 cars and produce amazing GT3 series races or events with 9 and soon 10 different manufacturers. All these cars are officially licensed by the brands itself, and boy, do they for sure feel proud about allowing Studio 397 to produce such accurate and amazing virtual versions of these cars. So there's a 5th. You see the Porsche 911 GT3R, the Audi R8 LMS GT3, the McLaren 720S GT3, a car that is not available in any other sim, and also the BMW M6 GT3, and later will arrive the Aston Martin, the latest specs Aston Martin in terms of GT3 racing. The car is not yet officially and fully allowed by the brand, but it will also be, when it arrives in the sim, an official release. So we were able to test all the cars at NOLA, and we could realize both that all the 4 cars are so different in terms of the handling and in terms of the balance and the way they perform on track, which says pretty much about how realistic is the simulation. But also we could understand how these 4 cars are so balanced in terms of performance. Each one of them with its different approach, but all of them are available to perform the same lap times, which is great when we are talking about multi-class or multi-brand GT3 content. So the Porsche is a car that is really heavy. It is, in my opinion, the most difficult of these 4 cars in terms of the driving. And when I say most difficult is, and I want to very much highlight this fact, all the 4 cars, just like it happens with all the 5 in the previous GT3 content, from where you can see there a McLaren 650S GT3, that is content from the previous DLC from Studio with GT3 cars. All these 4 cars are difficult to handle, especially when you use your force feedback to the most realistic setup compared to the real deal. These cars are difficult to drive, are difficult to keep with consistent balance throughout an exercise, be that a practice or a race, because everything that you do on track that you are not supposed to do when you want to drive to perfection will then be present in the way that the tire wears differently in all these 4 cars, and in the way they lose efficiency lap after lap once you are overcooking the brakes, or you are forcing the tires, depending on the turns, to go where you want them to go, and sometimes you are not driving to your best driving exercise. That will in fact affect the balance of the car throughout the X number of laps you perform on track, and it will show, especially in this car, the Porsche, because the Porsche is really a complex car to drive, and that is one of the first things we have to highlight in terms of the realism of this content, is that compared to other simulators, even simulators where the Porsche is present, here you really have to struggle with the car, and you really have to be very specific in terms of the setup, because this car requires very specific knowledge in terms of the setup. So that is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to complement Studio 397 and its team for the accuracy and realism of this simulation. The car, aside from that, which is great, but aside from that, the car is fabulous to drive. You do really feel you are driving a Porsche. I've never driven in real life a GT3 Porsche. I've driven Porsche cars that are not for racing, but from what I felt driving those cars, I can feel that here in the sim I'm driving a rear engine car. I'm driving a car that is very complex to understand, to better develop in terms of setup for better performance, and for that matter I must compliment Studio 397 for the amazing work they are producing here. So it's great to see this Porsche on track. It is very complex to drive, but it is a lot of fun. Then we have the Audi R8 LMS, the GT3, a car that I do believe, in my opinion, this is just my humble opinion, guys, I'm not an authority in the business, it's just my opinion, I do believe that in this case the sound could be a little better. The sound of the Porsche is fabulous. The sound of the Audi, well, it doesn't feel like 100% accurate in terms of what the sound of the car is in real life. But when I say accurate, 100% accurate, I mean that it could maybe get those 2% that I believe are missing, because it is not 100%, but in my opinion it is at least 98% accurate. The same I cannot say about the handling of the car on track, because the handling of the car on track does seem like it's pretty accurate. The car, as all the cars in this content, the car is heavy, and that is another talent of this virtual release, is that you do feel that the cars are heavy, and you feel that when you are braking and trying to make the car turn in for the corners, and you can see how it does drag itself, taking a lot of time, especially when we are talking about driving this car on flat tracks, which is the case both in the one we are using in this video and the other we'll be showing you in the second video. So when the track is really flat, when you do not take any advantage of some sort of banking, and you are not taking advantage of the car in terms of different heights of the track, when we are talking about flat tracks on a surface just as flat as this one at NOLA, these cars do take some time turning, and you do feel that these are heavy cars. So these are basically, when we are talking about these racing cars, these are basically production cars that are prepared for racing. The brands do lightweight the car in so many ways, but not as much as in, for instance, a Formula car. So you do feel in these cars, compared to when you drive Formula cars on sim racing, and specifically on rFactor 2, you do feel the weight of these cars and how that is felt in the driving and in the way the car performs, especially when turning. That being said, this car is a really fast car. You can easily find a setup where you can be fast with this car. You will struggle to do that, for instance, with the Porsche. The Porsche, you will have to really know what you are dealing with 100% in terms of building setups, because the Porsche is really a very complex car to drive and is a very complex car to manage in terms of the setup. This one is easier for less experienced drivers, but is in fact a lot of fun. I will tell you guys that I have a car that from all these four, and they all provided me a lot of fun driving and a lot of excitement, but also a lot of hard work, because you perform 10 laps in these cars and you are tired, especially if you allow the sim to use realistic conditions in terms of the rubber getting to the track and then driving on that rubber, which is not happening a lot in this video, as you can see. But we also made a lot of laps without recording for footage. We performed a lot of laps with all the cars, and we could see when the track was getting a lot of rubber, how it is demanding to drive these cars, especially if you do like I do, which is I prepare the force feedback of my wheel to be, I would not say 100% real compared to the real deal, but I would say at least 85%. So you do perform 15 laps or 10 laps minimum in these cars in real conditions, and you are tired. Anyway, for a less experienced driver, which is also something of a policy in GT3 racing, so GT3 series and GT3 cars tend to bring a lot of amateurs, and that also happens here in sim racing. It is easier to find your way, even in terms of setup, working with a car such as the Audi as it is, than compared to, for instance, the Porsche. So 2 cars already shown in the video, and 2 cars that are definitely welcome to the sim, especially because they are so well developed for sim racing. But this one, guys, in my personal opinion, the BMW M6 GT3 is my favorite car of this group of 4 cars already available in the GT3 Challengers Pack. The car seems like a hybrid. I don't know, not in terms of the handling, but you do hear the engine, and I do like the way that the engine of this car is working in the sim. You hear the engine and you feel like if this car is not as performant as the others. Then you drive the car on track and you look at the lines of the track, and you do think that the car is not handling in a way that you can believe that it performs good lap times. But the fact is that lap after lap, you see the lap times and you see the way you get adjusted to the car after one lap, after heating the tires, after hitting all in this car. After one lap, you do feel that this car is handling is fabulous, and the lap times are a complete surprise. It is consistent with the other lap times that the other cars perform, but this is a fast car. I mean, a really fast car, and it is the one I do enjoy the most driving. I don't know what you guys think. I'm pretty sure that depending on the driving style of each driver, there will be other cars, but I do love to drive this car. This is in fact my favorite of all the 4 cars, and if I was to race in a series and not choosing any of the 5 cars in the previous GT3 content, looking at the 4 in this release, I would definitely choose this car for racing. The car is heavy, but it does work really well both in fast tracks or more technical tracks, and it does work really well in flat surfaces, just like this one at NOLA and like the other one in the other track. In more bumpy tracks, the car will jump really. The suspension, of course, you can adjust that, but taking into account the baseline settings for each of the cars, and we didn't mix at all with the setup, at least for the video. This car is really hard, and so when you step on the curbs, the car will be really nervous But all in all, the car is really balanced on track, and a fabulous experience. Of course, all the four cars are fabulous experiences. I'm sorry for the other sim brands that I do very much respect, all of them. But I have to say that this is the best GT3 content currently available on sim racing. When I say this, I mean these four cars and all the other five that are already available in the sim. So these 9 cars, soon to be 10, are the best by far the best content available in terms of GT3 cars on sim racing. That is my statement. I truly believe that because I've driven all of them, I've tested all of them in all the sims, and I know what I'm saying. These cars provide the real feeling of driving GT3 cars. They are extremely well balanced, which means you can drive with people from all over the world that choose no matter what brand available in all these GT3 cars that are currently on use on rFactor 2, and this will provide fabulous GT3 racing for the fun and amusement of all these guys, but also the most real experience currently in sim racing for GT3 cars. I'm pretty sure that real drivers driving these cars in expo or something would be, people would not have to ask them to really talk about the cars, because they would feel that. I'm pretty sure that this is the case with this content that Studio 397 released for rFactor 2, and this is fabulous content, guys. This is the best GT3 experience you can ever, or at the moment, have on sim racing is provided by these cars. And we are now getting to our final car available in this video. It is the first time this car is available in terms of sim racing, not this one that we are still watching, but the next one. Yes, this is it. This is the McLaren 720S GT3. This is the future, the future McLaren car for GT3 racing. So currently the brand is still using the 650S GT3, and if you buy this content and you are already owners of the previous GT3 content that is on the sim, you will notice that you will have 2 cars from the same brand. So you will have this car and you will have the 650S GT3, and although they look the same in terms of the engine, which is obvious, they would have to, in terms of the handling on track, they are different. This car is I'm not going to say that it is more heavy, but the 650 is more compact in terms of the lines, which means the handling of the 650S is slightly better, but I do believe that this car will perform better. Anyway, the way that Studio 397 set up the cars, they are both true competitors of each other. Yeah, this is what happens when you lose control of the cars, and I'm showing you this because I don't need to show just what I do good on track. I can show also my mistakes. It's part of sim racing. Anyway, as I was mentioning, at the same time I'm returning to the track in this amazing McLaren 720S GT3. This car is, well, compared to the other cars, what I noticed in this car, and you will notice that more in the other track where we will be showing a second video, because this track you don't have too much need to use the curbs in this track, because there are not really difficult corners that you need to gain time jumping the curb. But you will notice, for instance, when driving in tracks where you use the curbs a lot, you will notice that the car is really soft. It does not have that impact that makes it jump, for instance, like it does the BMW when you jump the curb, when you touch a curb with this car. So the handling of the suspension works a little bit different, but I noticed that this car is also heavy on the corners, such as it is the Audi, for instance. The Porsche, for instance, is a very complex car to set up and to balance, but it does work well in the corners, really well. This car seems to be really fast. As you could see there, I jumped that curb a little bit. I lost the rear of the car, but it was my bad, not because the car was complex in terms of the way the suspension reacts to that. It was just a mistake that I did on track. But you notice that the car is really fast, great speed, really good in fast sections, but in slow corners, this car, it is just like the Audi, a complex car in the corners, especially in slow corners. So these 4 cars are amazing, just like the other 5 already available. And when I say 5 already available in terms of GT3, I include the Radical, because I'm one of those 5 guys in all the world that do enjoy the Radical. I do like very much the Radical GT3. So we are now with 9 amazing cars to drive for GT3 racing on rFactor 2. There's a 5th car that will probably force us to make another video also of this content, because there's a 5th car still on the way. We know already that it is the new Aston Martin, the new car that Aston Martin, the 218 specs car for GT3. We are waiting anxiously for that car, but till then we can already have a lot of fun driving 4 amazing and very challenging GT3 cars that Studio 397 produced for us as a DLC. We have to pay for them, but who in the world doesn't like to pay for great content? It's better than when you buy something like a sim or a DLC that is crap, but when you are paying for something that is really good, which is the case, it's great to have this content. And if this is the case for the future on rFactor 2, well, the future couldn't be brighter, because the sim, and I do have to say this, and I don't want to talk too much about this because it is content for the second video also. I do have to say that Studio 397 is doing indeed an amazing work for the sim, making this sim as real as possible, and they are getting there. They are definitely getting there, delivering us great content. Probably not the best content for casual users of the sim, because they will be hoping for cars that are more or less easy to drive, more video game cars. But for those of us that truly enjoy and have the passion for motor racing and have the passion for motorsports and want to have a platform, a virtual platform, where we can be as close as possible in terms of the handling of the cars, of what they are in real life. Well, for those of us, and I include myself in those, and I'm proud to say so, for those of us that do need this, there is nothing better at the moment than this, and this is the best compliment I can make for the guys from Studio 397, because what they are doing is I have to thank them, because as a passionate person for motorsports and an even more passionate person for sim racing, I do think that at the moment I love more sim racing than I do motorsports. Well, this is why I love it so much. It's because of content such as this one in this available on rFactor 2 in this GT3 Challengers Pack. So I have to review this with 5 stars, because there are no 6 stars in my vote for this sort of content, because if there were, I would be definitely giving them and happy to do so. Thank you for watching this video, guys, and bye bye.